Welcome to the Prosperity Podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to drop the hustle and earn more. I'm your host, Danielle Amos, business and success coach, certified Proctor Gallagher Institute consultant, and lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I'll bring you amazing entrepreneurs who have built wealth, harnessing the power of their mind. Prosperity and money are truly about energy, and I'm on a mission to help you create financial abundance through the power of thought. It's time we started normalizing conversations about money and create the wealth that is yours. Are you ready? Let's do this. Welcome to episode 128 of the Prosperity Practice. My name is Danielle Amos, and I am your host. Today, we have a very special clip for you. This is a clip from a recent event where we received incredible feedback. In fact, the women said, for the first time in my life, I know that I can be, do, and have anything that I want and that I'm worthy of it. This episode is about paradigms, why you're showing up the way that you are right now because you were programmed. I get into identity and self-image, and then how your future is not defined by your past. And although so many people allow their past to define them, there's a quote that I love: your past doesn't need you, your future does. So join me as we take a deep dive into this topic today. If it resonates, I'd love for you to share it. And make sure that you send me a note on Instagram and tag me in your shares. Enjoy. Today, you and I will uncover the power of self-image, your inner identity, which is a part of your paradigm and your subconscious mind that's controlling your current results. The truth is, you know you are made for more. That's why you're here. Wouldn't you agree? Your current results are no indication to where you're going. It has nothing to do with what's possible for you. And your past doesn't dictate your future. Your network doesn't dictate your success. Your education doesn't dictate your success. Your success is a result of how you see yourself. It's not who you think you are that's holding you back. It's who you think you are not. And the truth is, you will never outperform your current identity that you hold in your mind. I'm going to show you how to create a new identity and embody and calibrate your energy to the new you so that you become a match for the life you desire. Now, the truth is, it is you. It's like when I say new you, it's an evolution of you. But the truth is, through this process, you are remembering who you are. So I'm going to say things like creation, create her, write her. Like my poster says, I wrote her and I became her. Because I found that it's the best way for you to apply this information. And what I found is we actually remember who we are. So your desires come to you from your inner being as a way to go after the life that you want in order to get it. Now, the getting isn't the goal. The getting is very nice. The new house, the new car, the all the things and all the experiences you get to have and the impact you get to make. And the truth is, the true purpose of the goal is to grow. And your inner being, the truth, the essence of who you are, your purpose, you come here for a reason. You've come here for a purpose and to create that impact. In order to do that, you've got to grow. You've come here for the growth. Okay, so a few key pieces. As Carlisle said, we often need reminding as much as we need educating. So you may already be familiar with the concepts that I'm sharing with you today. However, do not allow your mind to trick you into saying that you already know this, or to trick you into saying, like, thinking that this isn't relevant because you've heard it before. The truth is, repetition is the key to learning. And you may know something consciously. You may be able to repeat it, and you may have memorized many of these concepts. And you may know it consciously, but it's not until and unless you embody these principles and believe them and be operating from them, and therefore they're in your subconscious mind, that it actually changes your life. No amount of memorization of any of these principles will make a difference. That's why reading all the personal development books, going to the programs without actually application makes for little change, creates a little change in your life. Does that resonate? Perhaps you're like me and you've read book after book after book after book. You've got a library full of personal development books and not much has changed. I didn't realize that it wasn't the knowledge that was important. It was integration. It's the application that's key. And that's what I'm going to have you do today in this session. How does that sound? Now, the knowledge is nice, don't get me wrong. We're going to actually have it go deep into your subconscious mind so that you're activated. Now, you can always tell by your current results your level of integration of this material. So, James Allen has a great quote. This is from As a Man Thinketh. He says, "We think in secret, but it comes to pass. Environment is but your looking glass." So we think in secret, or we think in secret. We're thinking in secret, but your environment, your circumstances, your current results show you what you've been thinking. Your life right now is the result of your past thinking, feeling, and acting. Does that resonate? So like James Allen says, we think in secret, but here's the thing. The amount of money you're making, the business that you have, the clients you're attracting, all of it is a result of the way that you've been thinking, feeling, acting. And I'm going to show you today how we can leverage that, take responsibility for the right now results in your life, and therefore create the future tomorrow, next year, the next 10 years by really understanding how the mind works, how your current identity is actually the way you think about yourself now is getting you the current results, and how you can actually change that. How does that sound? So a little bit of context, my work stems from my mentor's work, Bob Proctor. I'm one of his proteges and worked very closely with him up until his passing, and I'm very proud to carry on his legacy. So I've used these exact principles in my own life to transform my own life, 6 figures in debt to creating a multi-million-dollar business. And I've not only done this for myself, I've taught my clients to do the same. And many, like dozens of millionaires, have graduated from our community. And so if they can, you can. If I can, you can. So Bob Proctor, he studied human potential and the mind for over 60 years. He was known as the leading expert in this material, and he passed on literally his tools and his knowledge to, there's a few of us who are carrying on his legacy in this way. Since then, I've studied with some of the greatest minds of human potential work and mindset work, as well as embodiment and energy, frequencies, neuro-linguistic programming, you name it. And so I'm bringing that to you today. So what I'm bringing you is based on science, it's based on the universal laws, and I'm not only educated in it, I apply it to my own life. And this is what I'm going to show you today. So Andrew Carnegie, he said that any idea that is held in the mind, that is emphasized feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in its most convenient and appropriate form available. Now, Andrew Carnegie was our first millionaire, and he actually mentored Napoleon Hill. And I'll bring up Napoleon Hill's quote here for you. He said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Earl Nightingale said, "You become what you think about." Bob Proctor says, "Thoughts become things. If you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand." So the question becomes, what have you been thinking? What have you been thinking? I want you to look at your current life in a way like a scientist would, just like interested. What's been going on for you recently? Look at your current results. And most importantly, look at or think about what you've been thinking about you. How have you been thinking about you? Have you been limiting yourself, or have you been empowering yourself? And make it as black and white as possible, like that. Has it been lack, limitation, or prosperity, abundance? Like, which bucket? You cannot outperform how you currently see yourself. That's the truth. So this current image that you're holding in your mind of you is showing up in your life as your result, and you cannot outperform it. You cannot go beyond what you see as possible for you. And this is really important. So once you know that, doesn't it make sense to build a new image of who you are? Absolutely. So success is a system, and we need to know two things in order for you to achieve this life without limits. You need to know exactly where you are now and where you want to go. You've got to define that for yourself. And that makes sense, right? So if we were driving a car, you got to know that I'm starting in Toronto and my goal is to go to New York City. And based on those two things, you can create a map in order to get there. And that's really what you want to do for yourself. So where you are right now is going to tell you a lot about you, because your current thinking, the current way that you've been feeling and acting, all of that you've been showing up habitually. Does that make sense? So all of the ways that you've been showing up is getting you your current results. So you've heard this before. You're not the same. You cannot get to where you want to go operating the same way. That's like, if you keep doing what you're doing and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity, right? So the person that I'm speaking to right now is not the version of you that will achieve the life without limits, your goal. That makes sense. So what you want to do is understand where you are and then where you want to go, and see them as two different places. And then we're going to bridge the gap. Okay, got it? So where you are right now is because of the habitual way that you've been showing up in life. And this habitual way of showing up is what we call a paradigm. So a paradigm is just a multitude of habits, a multitude, like the way that you've been thinking, feeling, acting, habitual. And the paradigm is something that also includes your habitual way of thinking, which is called a belief. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So your beliefs are locked up in this paradigm. So is your habitual way of seeing yourself, your identity, your self-image. And and this is all in your subconscious mind. And this paradigm is something that was programmed. So you can just also say it's your programming. Your paradigm has been programmed into you since you were a little kid. So the things you heard most often, with the most repetition and with the most emotion, and the things you experienced in your life became part of this paradigm or your programming. Now think about this. You do not speak your first language because you chose it. You speak your first language, for me, English, because it was programmed into me. The same thing with your beliefs, with the way that you think about yourself, the way that you think about life habitually, the world around you, all part of this programming or the paradigm. And who gave it to you? Well, your parents, your caregivers, your teachers, media, society. And I want to say that your parents did the best they could with the tools that they had. So you can't give someone what you don't know. Just like if you are a parent, you're programming your kids and you can't give them something that you're not aware of. So for many of us, what this means, most of the population, 97% of us actually, were brought up in the world of lack and limitation and fear. And that's just because of the way that the world is. And so your parents did the best they could. And here you are with a program. And this paradigm, this programming is responsible for your right now results, unless you've already created a paradigm shift. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to reprogram your mind so that you can then become a match for the life that you desire. And it takes something, but here's the thing. Now that you understand that the habitual way that you've been showing up is a result for your current life, now that you understand that, you can actually change it. And it is your responsibility to change it. Okay? So that's the good news. So let's talk about now where you want to go. Well, where you are, where you want to go. So this life without limits, what does that look like? Like, let's define where it is you want to go. And in order to do that, I want you to tap into your imagination. Your imagination is a mental muscle that for most of us in our adult life has become weak because we have a strong imagination when we're kids. Think about this. We imagine that we can be anything. We imagine we can be an astronaut. We see ourselves going to the moon or a dancer or a singer. And it's not until we're asked, like, how are you going to do that? Or we become older and when we start questioning ourselves because of the things that we experience around us, that our imagination, we tend to shut it down. We are told to become more realistic. And we're asked questions of like how, and if we can't see the how, we then assume that it can't happen. In this work, I'd like you to tap into your imagination again, and it may be a weak muscle in your mind. Just like, muscles become weak in our body if we don't work them out. How we strengthen them is to work them out again. So I'm going to ask you to take your imagination to the mental gym and relax. And just now take pen to paper and write down any ideas in response to the following questions. In a universe where anything's possible, what is it that you'd like to be, do, and have? If you didn't believe that your neighbors would judge you, or your old high school friends, or family members, what is it that you really want? If you didn't allow that mind, the voice in your head to say, who do you think you are? What kind of impact would you like to have? If you didn't think it was impossible, what would you do? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you go for? What is it that you really, really want? Write that down. I like to think about what I'd like to be, what I'd like to do, what I'd like to have. Write those things down. Create a vision for your life. Maybe also in the next 6 months, next year, next 10 years, next 20 years. Use time and stretch it out so that you can really dream and imagine in a universe where anything's possible. What is it? Now, when I start to ask you this, usually what happens is a person's mind will think about what they've done in the past. And this would be what we call an A-type goal. Like you write down all the things that you've done, you want more of it. And that's awesome. And there's not a whole lot of growth attached to that. And the purpose of a goal and asking you what you want is for your growth. And so there's not a whole lot of growth in getting more of what you want, although it's a great thing. You can have it on a to-do list somewhere. But what is it that you really, really want? And where people go next usually is like the next logical step. So if this works out and this works out and A plus B equals C, then this is what I want. I'd like you to move past logic, because this B-type goal, this logical goal, what tends to happen is we write it down and it's something we think we can do as long as all of these circumstances fall into place. And then as time goes on, if we hit a bump in the road and one of those circumstances doesn't happen, what we tend to do is go back down and we settle again. And we settle for the A goal, like the life that we've already been having. And it's not a problem. It's just that you're limiting yourself. And so I want you to go beyond what you think is logical. Okay. I want you to go into a fantasy, something that you have no idea how you're going to achieve, but you desire it. There's like this little quiet inner voice whisper coming from it within. Your inner being is whispering something. And it kind of feels like crazy. Like if you were to admit this desire to anyone else, they'd be like, who do you think you are? Like, matching all those doubts that are actually in your head after you admit what you really want. It takes great courage to fantasize on this level, because you won't know the how. It will feel so big that it's like insane, like so far from where you currently are. That's the kind of goal. That's the kind of vision. That's what I want you to write down on your paper. And for me, when I wrote it down, I actually wrote Bob's protege on a piece of paper. It was 2015. I was not a coach yet. I had just been introduced to this material and I wrote it down. And then I covered it up. I didn't want anyone to see it because who are you? There's people in line to work with Bob Proctor. But I had to listen. I was coached to write it on my paper. And if it's a desire within, it's for me. You wouldn't be given a desire that's not for you. It's not possible. So the fact that this is coming to mind is a good thing. So write it down. Write it down. And this is the definition of limitless for you. And you want to continue to ask yourself this question, like, what is this life? And create the vision beyond limits, because the truth is you can be, do, and have anything you desire. You have infinite potential. And that is the truth. Then why do so few of us actually hit it? Well, it's because they don't understand the mind. And our mind's like a thermostat. So right now you've got a setting, just like, there's a thermostat on my wall and it's set for 20 degrees. I'm in Canada, so it's set for 20 degrees Celsius, maybe 72 Fahrenheit. And that thermostat has a setting just like your mind has a setting. And that setting is responsible for your income, for the way you're showing up, like all the things in your life. And let's look at income. So you've got a setting and it's a program setting. And that's your paradigm. And you're earning what you're earning right now, not because it's what you want to earn, but it's because of how you've been programmed. You've been programmed to earn that. And your habitual behavior, you've been showing up in the same energy, getting the same results. Now, here's the thing. You might work harder and your income might go up because you have a belief that hard work is the result of money. But then what happens the next month? You make less. And if you look back, the average income is the same. This happens all the time. Your results might go up and they go down and they come back to bring you back to that setting. Take a look at your results. So your mind has a thermostat, just like the thermostat on the wall, and you've got a setting. And you won't outperform that setting until and unless you change the setting. You got to reprogram your mind to create a new setting. You want to beat the paradigm, change the thermostat setting. If not, you're going to go back. And we see this all the time in results. So how do you do that? Well, first, you've got to understand and have the awareness that you can. And then you've got to create a new paradigm, which includes a new self-image identity. And that's the match for the life that you want. So you've got to know where you are and what it is that you want. And we're going to bridge that gap. Okay. So let's take a look at this at a very practical example. I'm going to give you the example of how I did this. And I'd like you to follow along, take notes, and write your example. Okay. And I'm going to make it very, very clear. So who you are right now, let's say for me, when I first did this, I was earning $50,000 a year. So $50,000 version of Danielle. There are things that I am thinking, feeling, and acting. So, and there are things that I have at this level of awareness, $50,000 version. And then let's just make it easy, and I'm going to 10x. So my goal was $500,000 a year. So $50,000 a year to $50,000 a month, or $500,000 a year. Let's make it really simple, which is what I did, by the way, which is what's possible for you and beyond. You are limitless. So, but let's make it really easy on paper. So $50,000 Danielle and $500,000 Danielle is the goal where I'd like to go. Now, what most of us do is we say, this is what I want, $500,000 a year. And I'm down here at the $50,000 version of me looking up going, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? How do I get there from here? And that's a common mistake, because my right now energy will not get me here. I can work harder, work so hard, 12 hours a day, all in this current mindset, and be on the hamster wheel, and my results don't really change. And this is what I experienced. And it was so frustrating. Let me tell you, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm working harder than ever. I quit my job. I'm putting all my efforts into being an entrepreneur, and it's still not working. Why? Because I was doing the same thing over and over. No, yes, I was doing more, but I was in the same energy, the same mindset, and I was expecting a different result. And this is where we get ourselves into trouble. You've got to actually create a new image. You got to create a new you in here, and then your outside world starts to change. So instead of being down here at my $50,000 version of Danielle, looking up like, how, I want you to go in your imagination to the $500,000 version of you and see the world from that place. Now you're going to have your own numbers on your paper. I want you to go into that place in your mind's eye and see the world from the goal achieved. Don't think of the goal achieved, think from the goal achieved. And this is a very different energy. This comes from Neville Goddard's Power of Awareness. See the world, perceive the world from the goal achieved. So how would you be thinking if you were earning $500,000 a year? What would you be feeling? What would you be doing? What would you have? Be, do, have. Now, let's show you an example. $50,000 version of Danielle. Well, what did that look like? She was driving a Toyota. She was shopping at the local grocery store, clipping coupons, going on vacation. We drove to Florida that year rather than flew. She was thinking that money was the result of hard work. She was feeling pretty good about herself, but not so confident in her abilities. The thoughts were that money was hard to earn, that clients were like challenging to get, that she had to really hustle. What else was she doing? She was shopping at Aritzia, not a problem, Zara, and knowing that she was made for more. $500,000 version of Danielle, well, she'd be shopping at Whole Foods. She'd be wearing more designer clothes. She'd be investing in herself. She'd be confident. She would understand that money is everywhere. She would feel grateful and confident in her life. She would feel abundant. She'd feel comfortable talking about money because she has it. She'd be traveling by plane, perhaps first class on destinations rather than driving to Florida. She maybe would be flying first class to Florida or going overseas on vacation. She'd take her family on vacation. That's the difference. And now the trick is to become energetically this version of you now. So once you identify what the thoughts, feelings, and actions are, you then become this person now. So you define it first on paper. You write her on paper, which is what I did. I wrote her and I became her. And you do the thinking and you notice the contrast between 50,000 and 500,000. You dream and you fantasize this as much as you can and you write it out. You create a very clear picture in your mind. Like Bob says, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. And the next step is to become her, to embody her. Literally, you calibrate yourself to the energy and you embody this version of you. Now, really what you're doing is you're embodying your truth, because through this process, you're actually embodying, you're understanding, you're remembering who you actually are. A human being, a spiritual being in this human body with infinite potential. And this is just the next level. And the truth is there's unlimited levels, unlimited growth, because you can be, do, and have anything you want. Your next step is to become her. And this is the actor's technique. And yes, you'll feel like you're faking it I don't like that word. I don't use it. It will feel strange. It will feel like you're a fraud. You'll have fear, doubt, and worry flash into your mind as you go out and you be her. And you'll have that. And I actually describe why you have that, because the current way that you see yourself is not a match for this new image. And so you've got to change that. And what happens is in society, we are taught that the fear, doubt, and worry is wrong. And we don't understand it. So what we do is we let go of the goal and say, look, I guess I'm not good enough because like all this fear, doubt, and worry. But what if you can transmute the fear, doubt, and worry into step into your personal power? And instead you're taught how to transform and reprogram your subconscious mind so that it's a match for your goal. And so, yes, it's normal that you're going to feel like a fraud. It's kind of like, have you ever had a pair of skinny jeans? And you put on the skinny jeans, like you really want to wear the skinny jeans, and you put those skinny jeans on. And at first, those skinny jeans feel like strange, like, oh my gosh, you look in the mirror and you're like, who do you think you are? And they're like too tight, because you're used to wearing like flared jeans. And you go downstairs and your sister or your best friend's in the room and they see you and they're like, whoa, jeans, girl. And they're echoing the fears that are in your subconscious mind. You're like, oh, I knew it. They're too tight. I knew it. But here's the thing, life's projection. They're just projecting back to you your own fears in your subconscious mind. But here's the thing with skinny jeans, like what if you ignored that and you went out and you told yourself something different, that you're rocking your jeans, that you look hot in those jeans, and you get enthusiastic about those jeans, and you practice wearing those jeans over and over and over. Before you know it, within a couple weeks, those become your favorite jeans. Am I right? And you rock them, like you literally rock them. And then you go out and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I love those jeans on you. You look so amazing. But you had to overcome the uncomfortable point where they didn't feel natural to you. And what made the difference? Time and practice and what you were saying to yourself when you were wearing those jeans. This is exactly the work that I take you through. You've got to practice. You've got to practice. And yes, you'll feel like a fake, but here's the truth. You feeling like a fake, or you being a fake, is actually how you've been showing up in your life up until this point, with all the doubts in your mind. That's fake. It's not who you think you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. Allow the real you to shine. Allow your light to shine. Allow your truth to come out. Allow yourself to remember the truth of who you are. You've got infinite potential. You are a being that can be, do, and have anything you want. Do you know who you are? You are an extension of source energy, a spirit, a limitless spirit in this human body. Your spirit having a human experience right now. All right. How was that? Now, you are invited to join us in Reclamation, which is a deeper dive into self-image. So if today's episode resonated with you, click the link in the show notes and check out our 3-month deep dive journey into identity work. I'm going to take you from where you are right now, show you the creative process to create your next level identity, and then show you in the second phase how to embody this character, this you, version of you, upgraded version of you. And then I'll show you how to practice becoming her and how to identify the self-sabotage, the blocks, and heal all the stuff that comes up as you start to embody this upgraded version of you. And we're actually going to heal it together. It's an in-depth 3-month journey of identity work, reclamation. The link is in the bio. I look forward to seeing you there. Share this podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. Expect abundance.